Hello. Today is June 27th, 2018. I'm meeting today with Mr. Don Johnson at his home east of Fort Collins, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans History Project. Welcome, Don, and thanks for sitting down this morning to tell your story.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, where you were born, a little bit about your family.
Well, I was born on April 1st, 1933 in Phoenix, Arizona. I was raised in Phoenix, Wickenburg, and Tucson. And my parents were living in Wickenburg. It was time to be born, so mother had to go to Phoenix and then back up to Wickenburg, and then back to Phoenix, and back up to Wickenburg, as I said before. And then moved to Tucson and been there a lot of years.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to live there all my life.
Yeah.
And but my dad they owned a dairy in Wickenburg, so I had that farming experience in dairy. And my grandfather he owned a dairy once and was a farmer and a rancher. And he came to Arizona when he was 17, and my mother was born in Miami, Arizona. So had a lot of
some deep roots there.
Yeah, deep roots and territorial experience and everything.
Yeah, wow.
And so anyway, he was very good close friends to the first governor. In fact, they were raising mohair goats, and both of them were made up an association before he became the first governor.
I'll be darned. Wow.
So I have a lot of history there in Arizona and seen it grow.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I moved to Tucson. My dad was a carpenter, builder. He worked for Webb Corporation, and they built all the air bases, military bases, and worked for, in fact, when I was born, and before I was born, his dad owned the Copper State Casket Company in Phoenix, and so I had a little experience in that. So growing up, so it was a experience that enriched me quite a bit in carpentry, because I like to work with wood and this type of thing. So
right. Now, did you have any siblings?
I had 3 children. I met my wife at church.
Oh, no, yourself. Your
yes,
siblings, your brothers and sisters.
Yes, I was one of 5 children, 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
And where'd you fit in that order?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, yeah, right smack in the middle.
My older sister and younger sister, and the 3 boys are in the center.
Okay.
And so the 3 boys are the only one living now. And we've lost our 2 sisters.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
And well, she'd be 93 or 94.
Wow.
And my brother is 2 years younger than her, so he'd be 92, and I'm 85. And then my other brother is 82. My sister would be 79. So we were spread out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And well, my dad lived to be 97.
So
my mother 94.
Got some good genes running through you.
Yes. Yeah. So we had that longevity.
Yeah.
But anyway, after I went to the service and I came back, and
well, we're getting ahead. Let's keep her in order here. So you finished school in Wickenburg or down in Tucson, or where'd you finish your?
I finished school in Tucson.
Okay.
And in fact, I was in the junior high. I had to think, they call them middle school now. Junior high. My last year in junior high, then went to Tucson High.
Okay.
And did 3 years there, and took wood working. Well, I took wood, sheet metal, machine shop, welding, electricity.
Wow.
Took all those things because the counselor said that I wasn't able to go to college because I couldn't take a foreign language. I just
Yeah.
I had difficult in English anyway, and didn't take a foreign language.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And my best friend in junior high and high school, he was a Hispanic, and Gene Campos. And so he tried to help me with Spanish, teach me that, and that just doesn't pick it up. So.
Yeah.
And my dad was building cabinets, so I went to work with him. And after school, and after I graduated, I went to work for him or the Lux Corporation at that time. And my sister and her husband, he was a lifer in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
He's a master sergeant with stripes up and down his arm. And you don't be drafted, go join the Air Force. I don't want to be in 4 years. Well, it'll be safer. I think that's when the Korean War was going full blast. And so I said, I'm going to wait. I just want 2 years. So anyway, I received my notice, and I looked at it, and it was for report April 1st. And I said, that's my birthday. So anyway,
both a bad practical joke,
Yeah.
an April Fool's joke, and a birthday present all wrapped in one.
So anyway, I had to be in Phoenix at the induction center, and so they had me a bus ticket to go get on the bus, Greyhound bus, and they ran on hourly schedules and on time. So, but anyway, my mom did not want to go down. My dad took me down to the bus station. Nobody else went. They were just tears or what.
Yeah.
Very emotional. And so we went, my dad took me down, let me off. And so here I was, first time alone, bunch of strangers, all these guys that on the bus, didn't know, what to expect. And you always have one in there's got a great big story to tell. Just probably don't know if it's the truth or not. But anyway, we arrived in Phoenix, and they took us over to the YMCA and put us up for the night. Next morning, go down to our physical, and that was kind of embarrassing. You stripped down to nothing, and the doctor walks by and get on, and then you get your clothing on, and then we left late that afternoon.
Right to basic training?
Yeah, we left on another Greyhound bus to head for Fort Ord, California. So the following day we arrived.
So you're inducted into the Army then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So went to Fort Ord, 6th Army Training Center up there, and took us over to the, not the induction center, but anyway, I guess orientation. And there was 2 days of that, explaining everything, and get your insurance made out. You're going to get paid so much money. Do you want to have it sent home, or do you want to have part of it when it's pay period? Do you want to have war bonds? This and are you what do you call it? You don't want to serve in the Army, or you don't.
It's a conscientious
objector. If anybody knows that your religion or whatever it is, you don't want to kill, and because they said the important of the Army to be training because we're going to train you to kill or be killed.
Yeah.
And you want to learn how to kill.
Oh, jeez.
And so after we went to 2 days of orientation and got our ID cards and all this taken care of, and fall out formation and marched over the company area. And I was in Charlie Company, in the 6th Army. It's going to be a 16-week training series, and majority of them are 8 weeks training. And so we went through everything, all kinds of weapons.
Why did they extend you to 16 weeks?
That was, I guess, the training going through everything. All kinds of weapons, mortars, everything. As the other ones were light, they call it light infantry and heavy infantry. Then we had 16 weeks.
And how was that? I mean, like I said, here's this boy. It sounds like really hadn't traveled too far away from home. You sound like there was a tinge of homesickness when you left. But going from a civilian into the military, was that much of an adjustment for you?
Well, yes and no. Okay. Because I was raised in a Christian home, and you know, if my dad or mother told us to do something, we were expected to do it. Because if we didn't, we knew the consequences were going to get paddled, and we did not want to get paddled. So we obeyed. It was yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, and we respected. My mother loved us to death, and so transition into this. My mother not wanting to go see me off.
Yeah.
It was kind of traumatic in some ways.
Yeah, sure.
But okay, I'm going to service. I'm 20 years old, so I expect to be. There's a lot of guys that are not going to make it, but I'm going to go through this. And when there's about 300 of us in that company, and about halfway through, I believe, there's only about 150 of us.
Is that right? Wow.
Oh, they dropped out. Guys, you know. Well, to support this, we go to the company area, okay, then and here comes our new cadre out. The officer, we had 3 officers. The company commander was a lieutenant, first lieutenant, and then we had 2 second lieutenants. One was a Hispanic person. Then we had 3 sergeants out there. Master sergeant was African American, stripes up and down his arms and everything. He says, "Gentlemen, you just welcome to Company C. We do not walk anywhere. We double time wherever we go. The only time we will walk is when we cross a bridge or we go past the hospital. The rest of the time, we're double time. And you shall keep up. If you don't, you will not be here." And so then the rest of the cadre we had, I remember his name. He was Master Sergeant Anderson. And he took care of us. I mean, but he trained us. We need to do this, and then if somebody was having problems, he would show you how to do it, but you kept going. I mean, he was an excellent, as far as I'm concerned, he was an excellent sergeant.
Yeah, oh, good.
And keep us going. And he said, "We'll beat any other company around here." And but the first, you know, it was okay, you assign your barracks, and we go to our barracks. And our cadre comes out, "We're going to have a GI party tonight." GI party? We're going to have a party to welcome us here? And one guy said, "I don't think it's a party. I think it's something else." And the cadre says, "Well, a GI party is you scrub the barracks down from top to bottom. And we don't know who was in here 2 weeks ago, but we're going to clean this place up." And so we cleaned the place up from top to bottom. Scrub everything. Since there was such a large group, we had double bunks through our barracks, but in about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, it was all single bunks.
Really? Wow.
Well, we started double timing, and you take most of these guys were city guys,
Yeah.
and they walked everywhere, and some of them were overweight. And so when you start double timing, the sergeants kind of keep going. You're in the backyard, just you can't make it, and you drop out, and and drop out, and they get sick, and they only allow them 3 days to be away from the company. Then you're transferred over to another company, and usually that you went over to a 8-week company. So, but they fed us good, kept us going. The first 4 weeks got to bed at midnight or after, up 4 o'clock in the morning, ready to go. Calisthenics, out, breakfast, going where we go, double time, rifle range was probably the first things we went out, and after through that, we started going out in the field, going to the what's that, infiltration course and all that. 2 times in the daytime, then 1 or 2 times at nighttime, and the second time was live ammo, live TNT going off. You crawl through and you bounce up off the ground.
Wow. Oh, jeez.
That was the experience doing that. But anyway, and I learned a lot. We had got a real good friend. Met. It was his name was Jim. We'll call him Tim. Jim Hilton. He's 6'4", about 220 pounds. Anyway, we become good friends. And but after about 4 weeks before end of training, I got a cold. I could hardly talk. It got down there. So Caddy says, well, you'll be barracks guard today. But Thursday, I could hardly say you'd be barracks. Friday, he says, I'm taking you to the hospital. Because after you miss 3 days, then they transfer. So it come to good time, so I couldn't talk. And to this day, when I get something down here, boy, it goes in my chest. I can hardly talk. So anyway, I spent 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Sunday, I said, I got to get back.
Oh, jeez.
I was able to talk by Sunday afternoon. Let me go. I slept the whole thing while I was over in the hospital. And I don't know how it worked out, but I had my own little private room, and they just kept water there and everything. But anyway, I'm back in the next day. The next 3 weeks, I was finished. But the first 4 weeks, you don't see anybody. You don't go anywhere. And after that, then we started having passes to go into town. And when we finally got 2-day passes, some guys had headed to Los Angeles and everything, but I went into Monterey. My friend and I, we'd go to Monterey, rent a room at the Monterey Hotel, go in, take a nice deep bath, and go down and eat ice cream at the soda fountain. But that's been my time there, and go to church up at Carmel. And but one weekend I went down to Los Angeles. My future wife, mother, had an aneurysm, and the only place they could operate was over in Los Angeles. So they took a train from Tucson over to Los Angeles. And so I went down to see her that one weekend, and got back in time and flew down, got an airplane, flew down there, because the airport was real close to the base. So at the end of my training, I was 170 going in. I come out at 190.
Really? Probably all muscle too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to gain some muscles. And the food was good. I mean, we've had to serve KP once in a while. I think I served KP twice in the 16 weeks. But I thought they fed us good. And I'm not finicky anyway when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And so we had a 2-week pass. We had to report back to. I've tried to remember the camp there, but it's no longer there. But it's up in Richmond, California, above San Francisco.
It wasn't Robinson, was it? Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
But it was just, it was basically everybody reporting and depart from there. And we were there about 5 days. And then we were called out, different ones, a group I was selected to be on guard duty, other ones were selected to be on KP, and different details be on the ship. So we got to load first a day before. And so there's the USS Pope was a transportation ship. And we went over to the Navy Yard over in San Francisco Bay. It was on there, and so the next day all the rest of the troops came, and I had guard duty at a door on the deck that went down to somewhere, I don't know, but for the ship people used that, and so to keep the Army guys going in there.
Yeah.
So that was my duty. So 14 days later, we arrived in Japan.
Well, I'm going to back up there. I got a couple of questions there.
Okay.
The first one, I've heard so many people when they've left San Francisco Bay going under the Golden Gate, and that thought is kind of like a line. It's like now I'm going off to something unknown. I'm leaving the United States. Did you have that feeling at all when you left the Bay, or do you remember that at all?
You're jogging my memory now. I know it was early in the morning when we pulled out, and there was fog.
Hmm.
So I don't remember seeing the Golden Gate.
Okay.
It was all fogged out.
Okay.
In fact, it was fogged for quite a ways out. It was going.
Okay.
Because I happened to be on duty that morning that we left.
Yeah.
And so, but once we got out of ways and the sun come out, and so we took it was, I don't know, was that in August or April, May, June? Yeah, it was about August. And they'd had a ceasefire by then time, so.
Okay. Well, the other question is, here's this boy that grew up in the high desert of Arizona going to sea. Did you get your sea legs, or how was that journey across that 14-day journey for you?
Well, my brother was in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
And he says, keep food in your stomach.
Okay.
And don't drink too much fluid, because it'll slosh around. Keep solid food in there. But it was smooth as glass.
Oh, was it? Oh, good. Oh.
It was August, summer. There was no storms. It was just like glass.
Oh, good. So.
Going over there. But there were some boys. There was one of the other fellows that were trained with us in some platoon. Oh, he couldn't get out of bed. He was blue to the gills, as they say. But it was smooth. But guys were just sick. But anyway, I did real good.
Oh, good. So you said the armistice had been signed when you guys took off. Prior to you taking off, or when you guys were on the way, or when?
Oh, before.
Oh, okay.
See, I think it was. I don't remember. It seemed like 1st of August or somewhere. I mean, the ceasefire had been decided on.
Yeah.
So.
And going over, were you going over as a replacement, or were you going over as an entire unit?
Replacement.
Okay, all right.
We were going over replacement.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue that down the road. So you landed in Japan. Take your story from there.
Well, when we landed in Japan, I remember they do it by alphabetical order, I believe, or something like that. Anyway, because when we come off the gangplank, they were having mail call and everything. You called my name out, and I had a pack of letters.
Oh, really?
Already. My future wife, I was dating her, and so she wrote about every day.
Oh, wow.
Then my mother would write about every 3 or 4 days, and wouldn't know everything that's going on. Her baby was in the service, and she wouldn't know what's going on. So I had a stack of mail, and then they put us in trucks and trucked us over to the base, and getting ready to prepare to go to Korea. Because you'll probably be here about 3 days, and get you ready because you'll take the same ship over to Korea. And so we were getting all our equipment ready and getting signed up for the next 3 days. And the day before, they call, they always keep you busy. Report to the orderly room. They just fall into people. So they called my name out, my buddy's name, and a few others. And there's about 20 of us that called out. Well, probably that amount of people. We got to clean up battalion. Anyway, they called us out, and they said, "Okay, you're going to go to battalion." So they marched us up to battalion headquarters, and a colonel come out and says, well, you've been called up for the reason because of your high school record, because of your high school training, this type of thing. You've been selected to go to engineering school if you so desire. Now, you've been trained with all your fellow men, and you're going to be leaving them. You probably will not join up with them again. So you have a decision to make. Do you want to go to engineering school or stay with all your buddies? If you want to go to engineering, step forward. And I volunteered and stepped forward to go to engineering school because that's what I wanted to get into.
Yeah, right.
Engineering with all my training. So we all had to go down, turn in all our other equipment, and get our equipment that we had, clothing and everything back together because we would need ODs while we're going. So we're going to go to engineering school. Is up by a little island, they call it Iwo Jima, just off the coast of Hiroshima. It was a prior Japanese officers training school. So we put us on a train, and we on the train overnight and got up there the next morning, and they unloaded us and took us down and put us on a landing barge and went over to the Iwo Jima and got on the bus, and they took us over to the camp. Japanese villages all over the place, and drive into this what was an officer training base, and it was had a soccer field out there and nice quarters, and so we were assigned according to what type of training we were having, and the commanding officer would come out and says, to give you some background, each one of you been selected to go to different schools, and they called each other name out. I was to be in a 6-week training for a construction, what is it? I'd have to look at my construction foreman school.
So now this was based entirely on your background. They didn't give you a choice of, okay, we've got these various engineering schools.
No.
You had no. It was purely on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because my buddy went to mechanic school, and his mechanic, his training was 8 weeks, mine was 6 weeks, and so the commanding officer said, okay, this is going to be like school. He says, when you report to your class, it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. You'll have 4 classes in the morning, 4 classes in the afternoon. Be an hour break for lunch, and ends at 5 o'clock. When you're in school, you are not required to salute because your class may have an EM1 in the class, and the guy next to you may be a colonel.
Okay.
And there may be master sergeants, and you may have a private teaching you in one class and an officer teaching you in another class. And so when the bell rings, you have 3 minutes to get from this class to the other class. And but once the class is over with and during lunch period, you respect your officers, and you're not in class then. So we had the whole branches. We had Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard people, and all different ranks.
Okay.
Everything. And so the class I was in, there was about 20 of us in the class. Most of us were just E1 Army, and we had Air Force. We had a Master Sergeant Air Force, I don't know what the Navy is, but he had a bunch of stripes on things on, and Marine guys. And the Marine became our room commander, you might say. He marched us over to our classrooms and marched us back all the time because that was what was required. Then we always had to keep our rooms clean and bunks clean like that. So I enjoyed the classes. I had math class was difficult for me, but I passed it because after 2 weeks in classes, then we had a weekend free and passes to go in, whatever type of tours they had and go in. But we had, I remember we had to go through math. We had to learn how to do knot tying, how to weave ropes together, because if you're getting ropes ready to go to ship is coming in, you got to extend the ship. You got to know how those 2-inch line diameter ropes put together to hold the ship together. And we had to learn how to tie those when they go out and put it between two cats and pull it and see if it's going to hold. You know, we were tested. I mean, we did that, and we had learn how to mix concrete for different purposes, calculate how much concrete we needed, and demolition. We calculate how much explosive
Oh, wow.
you had. The teacher says, "Okay, you got to," and we're coming down in town, and right in the middle of the road, the enemy has put up a concrete barrier, and you're to get that out of there. But on the left side is a prostitute building. On the next side is a liquor store, and you do not want to destroy those. You want to destroy the bunker. And so we learned how to calculate all this. Then we'd go out and experiment, or use what we have learned out over on the beach.
Wow.
And do that. Learn how to do pile driving, do steel or telephone pole, drive them into the beach or at the shore, calculate how much. We did that, and I never have used it since. And so the formula the formula of mixing concrete, I've used that many times. How to supervise grading a road, how to maintain a road, put in bridges, the Billie Bridge, learn how to put in culverts. The culverts, if you put it too low, you can wash out. If you get it too high, it'll definitely wash out. And all the things to do with maintaining roads and building buildings and Quonset huts, everything to keep the Army going, because the needs you have they told us you have one man infantry guy up on the front line, but there's 20 people behind him.
That's right.
To support him, because you got to get him there. You got to support with ammunition, food, and everything else like
That's
that.
right.
And so they're looking at the MASH production, and I see the guy going back and supposed to go on a little old dirt road. We kept those roads open, and so. But that's what I learned there in that 6 weeks. Besides, after I had the one pass, my buddy and I took one trip to go to see Hiroshima.
Oh, wow.
And so they loaded us on the Navy landing barge, and we went out of the little bay and over to Hiroshima, and had a bus there that took us all around. And I figured that it was 8 years after the atomic bomb had dropped there that we were in Hiroshima.
Wow.
And those who looked at pictures, they always showed you the granite bridge, showing the footsteps going across. I was there. I got to see that bridge, the footsteps of the person during the flash. We went to the library there. It was still in ruins. It was not like it is today. This made a memorial there today. The train station showed its damage, but it was the whole city was still rebuilding, but it was still in shambles. Because you take that many people that lost their lives there, that all the buildings that were there, it was just flattened.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I'm just going to ask how, as you traveled around trains and stuff through Japan, how was the rest of the country? Had they started rebuilding? And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And how were the people towards you? I mean, 8 years before, they they were our arch enemies.
Well, when I look at that, the people really weren't our enemy. It was the military.
Yeah, yeah.
See, the government did the type of things. When I look at that, and so they were friendly. The military had found a place that we could eat there. They wanted to do. I mean, it was, but it was an interesting experience.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
Because 1970, I was back there.
Oh, really? Oh, well, we'll get to that story unless you want to tack it on to this one.
No,
but,
I'll
yeah.
continue. But anyway, it was an experience and training that I never expected to have,
Yeah.
and that put me in a better mood, I guess, for the Army.
I'll be darned. Wow.
So I finished training and got into another friend I met there. My buddy in training, he still had 2 more weeks, so I wouldn't see him again for some time. Anyway, the two of us, they took us down again, put us on a ship, and took us to Korea, and loaded us on a train, and took us to Seoul, and we unloaded there, and they put it in. I was in the 64th Group, 32nd Battalion, Charlie Company. And the battalion was up in a college buildings up. It's kind of east of Seoul, and it's on the main road then going up to what was the town up there up on the border?
They're at the DMZ?
DMZ. There's a main road going up there.
Okay.
We went up there about halfway, then we took a side road, and about 2 miles off of that was where our company was.
Okay.
And the day we pulled in there, we got there about noontime, and unloaded us all. Well, there's only 2 of us, and so you got to get your winter clothing because this is in November.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh. Now, what were you seeing, speaking that you talked about Hiroshima and such, Japan, what were you seeing through Korea, going through Seoul and such? Was there still a lot of damage from the war?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A lot of damage still there. I've got some pictures of some of it. And the people were still, but comparing the Japanese and the Korean, the damage doing there, the Koreans were still, I'd say almost 20 years behind. I mean, they're still in the mud buildings, dirt roads everywhere, and oxens, this type of thing. So, but the time arrived in the company, we got up and the first sergeant come out and says, usually the company commander was out here to greet you, but he just left. We had emergency, two GIs and 2 Koreans were just killed up at their camp, and found out that the Korean had a shovel and he going to pick up a dud, and it went off and killed the 4 of them.
Oh, boy.
So that was my experience coming right into
Yeah.
the first day, and but it was new. Here you are. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing?
Right, right.
And they assigned me to the 2nd platoon, and so the sergeant will be here. They're out on a job. They'll be here at lunchtime, and meet them, and so they take you over to your tent. And so we had a tent with a wooden floor on it, and with 2 oil burning stoves in there, and so there's your cot, the old Army wooden cot with a canvas thing on it. That was my bed for the next 18 months.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy.
And so they furnished you a sleeping bag for the winter, and then a blanket sheets for the summer. And
Between all that, between the sleeping bag and the oil burning stove, did you stay comfortable? Because the winters are brutal over there.
Yeah.
But you were comfortable enough?
turn the stoves up, and you got down that sleeping bag. It was down-filled sleeping bag, and you zipped it up to your chin, and you stayed warm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that got assigned there, and the next day I was to help. There was 3 or 4 of us went out on the road. We had these Koreans. I never did it, or I don't remember it. I think they were prisoners, Korean prisoners. Because if I look, the pictures that I've looked at, their clothing matched the ones in North Korea. And as I looked back, where they got all these people, all these men, well, back in, when North Korea made an invasion, they gave all the bunch, they said about 30,000 or more North Koreans wooden rifles, and they charged. And they just captured all these guys and killed a bunch of them, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And we had these, they did the manual labor basically. So we were out cleaning out the gutters, because there wasn't much in the gutters, and the grader would come by and do that. Then they found out that I could work with explosives, and they said, okay, you're going to be the company explosive thing. So go down the road and keep roads. One part of the road was when a tank retriever come down, he would scrape, a big rock would stick out. So took me out. Okay, that's your first job. We got to straighten this out a little bit. So bring the air compressor truck out with a jackhammer, and the guy that drove the truck and the air compressor, he said, I really don't know how to use a jackhammer. Well, here I come, I get a jackhammer. So drill the holes in there the first day, and then you let it cool and come back the next day, set the explosive. So I straightened out that thing. And so there were several of them working on it. I remember one of them, it jumped out. It's kind of an interesting formation. It just, a cliff or a big boulder would stick out and go back in on the road. So, well, we'll start at the base and work up. So I started drilling a hole. I got in about 1.5 feet, and all of a sudden water started coming out. What did I do? Hit a water pipe? No, I can't. There can't be a water pipe here. Pulled the jackhammer up. Oh, we had a stream of water shooting there almost across the road. It lasted for about 5 minutes. I must have hit a spring right in there. Anyway, it quit. Never did any more. So after I drilled the rest of the hole, the next day we come back and I set it off and blew all the stuff to small pieces, and they'd bring the crew in, and with the Korean helpers, and they'd roll all the rock and the debris off the road, clean that up so the road could be clear. And so that was mine. And then they says, we got to get a rock quarry started. We got to start getting a lot of gravel made up. So had to clear that, and go by clearing that, we had to get a mine sweeper and go up and check in and find any duds or anything or sitting, or if there was a mine had been set and had been missed over there.
Right.
Because we were going to work that cliff out of there. So anyway, I was there. Steve found a lot of shrapnel, tons of shrapnel.
Wow.
Anyway, it worked that. So, and I was doing that. I keep track of how much of soil or how much gravel left the area. I guess they let the Koreans know or how much we're moving out of there. And so I was up on the rock quarry one day. The guy running the big crusher, Dad, boy, he jumps off that thing and everybody takes off. And there's a mortar that had never gone off, so I'd take that. I just picked it up and carried it out of the way.
Oh, jeez.
Well, it hadn't exploded, so it's not going to explode. You just pick it up in a jar and set it over there and set some explosive on it, and blow it up. So it's fun. You just do your job, you work hard to do it, and don't ask questions.
Yeah.
And because if you let it go, you might injure somebody else. You take care of it. Only injure one person. So I had that experience working with that. But it was cold over there in the winter time, so the next winter coming along, it was cold, working on the road, but the road work was the main thing. Keeping the road. Our graders, we had graders out working every day. Two of them just kept because I look at MASH and the guys going down the Soul and they don't. We kept the road. There's traffic on those things because there's supply, running food up these guys. Medical always going. The two roads that we took care of, so always working on it. And then I'd go with one of the officers in the Jeep and would go and check the road, see how they're getting blade right. Do we need gravel on there? I remember this one time we were coming down the back road, we'd come around the corner and go across it where this little stream was running across, and he goes by and I said, "Whoop, hold it a minute." And he says, "What's the matter?" And I says, "There's a hole in the road." We stop and go back. He looks at that hole. And I says, "You see the water down through there?" "Oh, I've got to replace this culvert." "Okay, keep the trucks from any other vehicles going across that center. Don't want them to drop in there. How much gravel do you think is going to fill that?" And I said, "Oh, about a truck. That 5-ton that truck we're carrying, probably about 6 yards." And I said, "One truck will be all right." So, okay, so I stood guard over that. And about 2 hours later, here comes the trucks up, and he brought 6 trucks loaded with gravel. Got the it's not a backhoe, but it was a machine that had a big scoop on it. Anyway, so we scooped it out, put another culvert in that thing, filled it up, and got all the trucks turned around, went on back, and got that done. That was one day's work.
Yeah, right.
And these are things that we occurred. And then when they need some carpentry experience, do some work down in Seoul. So called me, and then so there's 3 of us they took down, and it was a school. It was probably a vocational school, and that's the way it looked like. Because anyway, the classrooms upstairs, they needed the cover of the blackboards because it's going to be used for offices and things for the United Nations. And because down in the courtyard, there's all these United Nations trucks parked there. And so anyway, I covered the blackboards and working on there. And one day I carried up a sheet of plywood and everything. And, I'm carrying it up, and here's some people coming down from the outside. There's "Whoops, excuse me, soldier." "Okay, out of the way." "Oh, you're doing a good job. Let me help you." As a general.
Oh, is that right?
You're carrying one piece of plywood. You're a good man. Anyway, got that compliment. Anyway, we got that job done. And I'll elaborate later on about that. So anyway, I was involved in that. And, one little thing I was interesting. About the 3rd week after arriving there, we're going out to work on the road, and there was a Jeep, a Korean Army Jeep had skidded off the road because it was icy in some spots, and wanted me to, I guess the guy driving the Jeep missed the bridge. Anyway, he was out down in there, his body was laying in down the ice and snow.
Oh boy.
And so the truck turns around and takes me back and says, "You saw it. You reported, you're new here, you do it. We don't want to do it with the company commander." So go in, tell the sergeant, and he says, "You got to tell that to the company commander." And in training, they tell you how to go and report to the company commander, and going through my mind, how do I do, what do I talk, what do I say? Going, oh yes. Private Johnson reporting, sir. I have a message to deliver to you. Okay, and giving the information. Okay, well, I'll take care of it. Thank you for being observant. You're dismissed. Thank you. Out to go. So anyway, the lone guy on the totem pole, I got to do a lot of little things like that.
Sounds like you were kind of the jack of all trades
Yeah.
when it needed something done that
Yeah.
came to you.
Well, I was my background
Right.
training on this.
Right.
I knew to do this, and some of them had been to an engineering school in the States, but it was different. Mine was supervising, construction foreman, how to do and figure this stuff. The other guy was just trying was do the work.
Right,
And
gotcha.
so anyway, that was some of the experiences I had.
Yeah.
Being cold in our tent, in our platoon, there was 4 tents, or actually 5 tents, the sergeants, and then the enlisted men. And so each platoon had 5-ton trucks, 2 deuce-and-a-halfs, and a Jeep. That was our equipment. And so in my tent, there was 3 truck drivers. I says, how do you get to be a truck driver? Because I don't want to be out in the cold anymore. Because I noticed in your truck, you have a heater. Because when you get started in the morning, you don't scrape the snow off of the canvas top. You just turn the heater on, and 5 minutes, it's gone. So I don't want to be cold anymore. He says, just go up and see the sergeant. So I went up to see the sergeant. And he says, okay, I'm going to take you for a spin. Well, I've driven farm tractors and equipment like that since I was 12. So okay, when whatchamacallit leaves, the truck is yours.
Huh.
So this was about October, and it was time for him to leave. So went up, the truck is yours, and the truck 18, and that's got a bad clutch in it, so the clutch is about ready to go out, so you can't pull any trailers or anything. But I babied it along. You use your transmission down there, and you can pull anything instead of put pressure on the clutch. You let the transmissions do the work. So I had a beautiful winter, nice and warm, driving those trucks. No more out on the road or out to the rock quarry or anything. I just haul gravel and haul dirt and haul people and all things like that. And, anyway, that was.
And that's what you finish your tour out
That's
doing?
the way I finished my
Yeah,
tour.
yeah.
Well, actually, my tour was driving Jeep.
Yeah.
But before I got on the truck, I had my wallet stolen by one of the Chinese, North Koreans,
Really? Huh.
in their things. Because when we go out on the job, everybody gets in the back of the dump truck, and we go over to their camp. And how many you need today? 4 or 5 or 15, and because we all line up and they all get on and we go. And so on the way back that evening, I'm back there and we're all crowded in there and everything, and something feel funny. And I got out of the truck, that wallet, and it was gone. And our officer with his Jeep just pulled up beside it. I said, one of those guys just stole my wallet. Here, take your Jeep. Jeep driver drove him and caught the truck, got out, and the driver says, okay, what's the matter? One of them, somebody up there stole my wallet. He says, okay. He just starts raising up the bed. And those guys pile out in a hurry. And so I line them up, and so I started going through each one of them, about the 4th one, which was, I guess was lucky, out of about 15 guys, and took a shoe off under these canvas looking shoes, They looked just like their uniform. And they just stuck my wallet down there. They hadn't taken anything out yet. Aren't you going to hit him? I said, these guys will take care of him. And so, anyway, I rode with the truck driver back to the camp and unloaded the guys, and boy, the other Koreans started hollering at him. There was the reason that, because there were South Korean soldiers that took care of the camp, and these guys were dressed in these other things, and they had a fence around the place. So we had to, if we took out 5, we brought 5 back.
Right.
And so, anyway, they started yelling at him, and boy, they got him. They started beating him. So anyway, that was my experience with there. Got my wallet back. Next time I secured it a lot better. Carried it in my front pocket.
Yeah. Now, would you have much interaction? You've interacted with these Korean workers, but would you interact much with the Korean civilians around the base at
Yes,
all? Or?
Yeah, we would. We had to get a laundry done, and Korean women would come up and do laundry, and would talk to them, and they'd give us a price on this, how much laundry. So then they'd sew on our laundry little white threads on there, and make Korean letters, identify our laundry. And they'd come back nice and stacked, and nice and needed starching, and the fatigues are all ironed and pressed, and starched just real nice and everything. Underwear and all this was all nice and clean and everything, and so they'd pay him the money and take care of him, and I took care of mine. I could buy cigarettes $1 a carton, so I get buy 2 cartons, and I'd give them a carton besides paying for them. They took good care of me.
Oh, good.
So talk to them. We'd go down the village, visit the village, walked around the area. We went to the Koreans. I don't know if they still do it, but the older ones, when they buried a person, made a hole even with the ground. Then they put a mound up on top of the grave, and I guess the more prestige a person has was the bigger the mound. Well, there's one in our company area, and they the elders of the village come down, which they wanted to take the bones and move it. So we brought a dozer or a cat, and we just level the ground, just pushed that away, and it just opened up, and they raised the lid up, and here's these little browned up bones. They picked them up, everything, did a little ritual over it, and said we could fill it up and clean it all over. We did. They went off with the bones. And I got a picture of that too. So.
And what about, it seems like every Korean War vet I interviewed always talked about the honey buckets. Did you?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. We had our restroom, or
latrine
was took 55-gallon drums, cut them in half, and set them underneath each. And I think there was 10 or 12 seats in our latrines. We put screen around ours, and then on the back we left up lids, and when the honey bucket guy would come, and he'd bring his cart down and slide it out and pour it in his thing. And you go down into the village, and they'd have a great big, like a septic tank or cesspool, and they'd dump all that in there, and with everything, and put the cow manure, all that, the straw, everything, all that fermented, and then they'd pick it up, and then springtime, they'd load up the buckets, go out there and put it on the farm, and there we were right in the middle of the farm area, and the breeze come in, so you got used to it, and, but it was, but they did it, and we had a couple of dogs, male and female, and they'd have puppies, and puppies get up about, nice plump size, they were about 6 months to 8 months old, and all of a sudden they'd disappear.
Oh, jeez.
But we always had that pair.
Huh.
And we've fattened them up again. So
Boy, this whole experience just must have been. I mean, once again, I keep going back to this boy from Tucson, halfway around the world in this. I mean, it just had to be an incredible experience.
Well, it was. Yet you're lonesome, and
Yeah.
what am I doing here? I mean,
Right.
these people, why can't they take care of themselves? You know, you get angry at times, and but afterwards, I look back and I says, you know, it was worth it. And but it's you're in this area for a purpose. Like I say, our purpose was keep the roads in good condition, get all communications ready, anything to keep
Everything
as we
flowing.
kept the Army moving.
Right. Right.
You know, and like I said before, the MASH does not give a clear picture
Yeah.
of there because we kept the roads open for everybody, and water supply kept water because all these units need water, need generators, this type of thing. We kept them going in.
Right.
And but it was we kept busy. And we had weekends we could go down to different villages, visit them, visit them, get some friends, and in our tent we had a houseboy. Anywhere from probably a 12-year-old to a high school student. He'd polish our boots, keep our tent clean, and got our laundry to take it to the gals to do that, and they got free meals. We paid them so much a month. So, and some of them were really good boys. We had problems with one little boy, but we told him it was rest. It was time for him to leave, and they gave me the responsibility to tell him, so I had to do that. It kind of broke my heart, poor little guy. But we had an older one, and he was dedicated to his job, and he wanted to be in the Korean Army when he got finished, and I got old enough, so so he got some experiences on that.
Yeah. In your 18 months over there, did you get any R&R trips to Japan?
No,
or?
I decided to save my money.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the guys going there, they always talk about when they go to Japan and they get the geisha girls.
Yeah.
I'm not interested
right.
in those. And I mean, well, some of these guys come in that go get a girl down in the village and stay down there and come back, and then they come up and they get the disease.
Yeah, right.
And then they got to go to sick call, and they come back, and then come back and complain. And some of these guys were married, and I says, don't you know what you're doing?
Yeah, right.
But their sexual desires take hold of them instead of them being controlled of their sexual desires.
Yeah.
And what they do to the family and present or future.
Right.
And when they come back home. And I've heard some of these guys be talking, says, I wish I'd never done it. And but anyway, you had that going on. That's the reason I never did take R&R. And it's going to cost you money. And I was trying to save all my money I could get. I wanted to get a car when I get out.
Right, yeah.
And
so what would you do for entertainment when you weren't on duty? Did any USO shows or anything like that come through? Or?
Oh yeah, we could go down there, or we'd go down to Seoul. They had the big PX down there. I brought a clock. I gave my mother, it's in a box. I need to get it out. I bought some things and sent them home. Some things are made in Japan or Korea. Weekends, we had movies usually on the weekend come in, and or just rest. I mean, you get a chance just.
Yeah, right.
But we did walk all over the place, or if we get a Jeep, we'd go up some of the other villages. We went to some of the tombs. Look at their old religious things they used to have, and kings, I don't know what you call them, but you don't ever see them. So often you'd see the tombs. But we got to go down to Seoul. I got on a number of little tours. We went to the capital, and you see North Koreans just riddled that place, broke into the safes and everything like that. But I got to see the old things and the different buildings. Got to tour them and went on some tours and got to see the cultural side of Korea.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of Korea is a rather Christian nation too. And a lot of people, well, it's a Buddha or Hindu. Well, there's a lot of Christians there too, because there's a lot of Christian churches that got to look at and see. And but then we're going to move our old company area down by Incheon, down by the deportation center.
Okay.
And doing the work. And just before that, I don't know if they got an alert for something, but we were called to go down to Seoul, over by Incheon, over by I can't think of the river. Anyway, that runs down through Seoul. And we had to monitor that river up by our company area, way up at the Han.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Han River. We kept monitoring the water flow up there, coming down Seoul, because they had K-14 Air Force Airport down close to Seoul. And when the river would rise and too much water come down, it might flood the air base there, because Incheon, not Incheon, the Han River and the tide, they have a 25-foot tide.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Comes in there, so it backs way up into by Seoul. So we hear the Han River flowing. So we had to monitor that. But anyway, I don't know what the reason, but we had to go down over the other side, over by the Han River, and the demilitarized zone is the center of the Han River coming up. Demilitarized zone is only 5 miles from Seoul.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Huh.
You look on a map, or
Yeah.
you look on Google Map, and you'll see it coming in the middle of the road, and then it's just outside of Seoul, goes up, and then it goes way up, and then it goes way up there north, then comes up where they have all the peace dogs.
Uh-huh.
That's way up there.
Huh.
But here's it come way down. Back to times if you're doing a high-rise building, you can look over and see them over there on the north side. Anyway, we had to come down there, and in 24 hours we brought our equipment down, laid landing mats down on the sand on the beach area over to there, because they said if we had to make a quick assault, we would come across there, so we could get over cross in the demilitarized zone and we head up north.
Huh.
So
Wow.
worked on that, and just I've been driving for 24 hours, and we were hauling the landing mats, hauling gravel coming in there, and there was I think there's about 3 or 4 different engineering groups working getting this down, because it was a big project. I don't know why we did all that, but anyway, we did. So on my way home, going back to company area, still up on the north side. Got there, and it was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess. Anyway, I was sleepy. The sergeant in the seat beside me coming in, and I ran off the ditch just a mile from the company area. Anyway, we got it out, and they pulled my truck out, and we got up to the company area there before the rest of the main guys got there. So anyway, that was an experience. They let us off for a couple of days to get rest, and Then we got orders that we were going to move, and so we had to start tearing everything down, moving over by Enchon. And also during this period, the 32nd Battalion was going home. The colors were going home, so we were going to be in a different battalion. I said, oh, this is getting close for me to be going home. Maybe I'll go home with the battalion. Well, I didn't. But when we moved down there, then we got a new company commander. Instead of a first lieutenant, we got a captain. And they checked the order since my truck was about ready to go. Was it General Clark, I believe it was the commander of the Pacific or the Korean area. So we had a meeting and had everybody down there and said, okay, any equipment, we want it in tip-top shape. Ordnance, you're supposed to get, if there's a minimum, something wrong with trucks or any equipment, bring it up to 100%. My truck was not 100%. So, okay, it went in, get repaired, and the captain says, you can drive my Jeep, so you become my Jeep driver.
Okay.
So I was first man in and drive the company commander around. So I did that for about 3 weeks, I think. I was about ready to go home. So we were still Charlie Company, but we were in, I don't remember what battalion we were in. I know we were in the 64th group. It was down to another group. Anyway, all the change comes and everything. My name was not on the list. I said, I'm about ready to go home. I believe my name's not in there. This is February, and March is coming up. And he says, I'll check everything coming in. And we were building a building when the rec hall over on the deport center, where all the guys come to be deported home. And so I was driving the captain around. We were driving down that, whoop, whoop. What you done? And I said, there's my buddy. He's going home.
Oh,
we went to school, went to training all together. I'd seen him 2 or 3 times because he was stationed in Seoul.
Okay.
At a company in there, so I saw him several times. He must be going, he's okay, go talk to him. So I stopped. That's kind of what captain was. Went over and talked to him. Yeah. He says, I got here yesterday. I got all my stuff turned in. Supposed to be the end of the week. I'm going to go home. Come back and told the captain, he's okay. So he does some checking. He gets on the phone, come back. That afternoon I had my papers. I'm going home.
Wow.
So anyway, there's a lot of things that took place and that, I just sit and remember and think about this. Gosh, what did I do? Yeah, I went here, but what was I doing? But a lot of things, I guess, that weren't important, or that went by quickly. But after driving the truck for 6 months, that's all you're doing, hauling gravel.
Yeah.
One time we were hauling gravel down the road, and all of a sudden here comes the U.S. military police coming down the road with their sirens, red lights, and then behind them was the Korean red lights. And so I pull over the side of the road and everything, and here comes the blue Lincoln. Okay, that's the president of Korea.
Wow.
Going up somewhere down the road, gravel road. So anyway, you have things pop in your mind.
Yeah, right. Sure.
But the going home, that was good.
Took a ship back home as well again, or just fly? Yeah.
Got back, get ready to go on the ship. Lotus got selected this bunch out to go do different details. I was on KP. Yes, we get on the ship first. KP, you're in the middle of the ship.
Good.
This is February.
Oh boy.
I said, that's going to be rough. The winter, because you take the northern route coming in. So I would be on KP. When we went over the tables, you had tables and the benches, you got to sit down. This time we walk in, they just had the tables up high, so you stood up, no benches. They fold up and out of the way. And we're right off the mess hall. The mess hall and the kitchen is right in the center of the ship. So we got loaded first. Loading up, no way. USS Pope.
I'll be darned.
Same ship, come over, I'm going to take me back. Yeah, so we got loaded on and on KP duty, so we had all 3 meals. So we take care of so clean up and everything and help make coffee and do dishwashing and all that stuff. So anyway, we spent our time in the kitchen or in the cafeteria, because you go up on deck and everybody was leaning over on the side, or they were in on their bunk and our bunk. So our sleeping quarters were different than the rest of them, because we were right off the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so I had an interesting trip back. You'd go out on deck and everything, and you see the bow of the trip go up, and you look back, and it looked like the stern was in the water, and it goes back down, and then it decides to roll on the side and everything. But go down in the kitchen, you just move back and forth. In fact, we used to take a stainless steel pot, fill it half full of water, and set it on the end. Okay, so going to make it down to the end, and go and see if it'd make it down to the end. And if it did, we'd catch it, but sometimes it'd get almost the end, and then it'd start coming back. Sometimes it'd come real fast or just slow. And then start putting bets down, which way is it going to go. I didn't lose any money, but that, anyways, keep you occupied on there during meals.
Yeah.
And we had all we wanted to eat, because we didn't have very many people going through.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get back to the States. How much longer then were you in before you mustered out?
Well, we arrived in Seattle early in the morning. There's an interesting thing I want to drop in there, that coming across here, we were about 3 or 4 days. It took us 14 days to come across again. About 3 or 4 days out, I was up on deck looking out, and here's this little fishing boat with one guy in it, with this little tiny little one-cylinder little gas engine, pour water in the top of it, just put, sitting in there pulling nets. Nothing around, and these big waves. You see, we'd go down in one there, he'd come up on another one. This little thing, like if he capsized, he's out pushing his net out there and nowhere. No land, no nothing. But anyway, it smoothed out about a half a day before we got into Seattle. We come into Seattle early in the morning, and the harbor, and then the ship got the pilot on, bring it in the harbor. And then we unloaded and got on a train. They had a troop train, a Pullman car. We got to sleep. And then we come all the way back, and then he stopped at Mount Shasta so we could see Mount Shasta. Then we come on down and arrived in Fort Ord, where I left out in the afternoon, and got us out and marched us over the same barracks, some area that we mustered in at, and got in there, and took us about 2 days, 2-3 days, I believe, to get out. because the process takes quite a while to process. You got to get your clothing checked out, your clothing in, they give us a uniform and clothing to wear home, and make sure you get all your ribbons and everything else like that, and your dress shoes. You don't need no boots now, and all paraphernalia you brought with you, because I think they use you to help transport your clothing and equipment back and forth.
Oh, okay, right.
So you get a bunch of it, take it over, and then you bring it back, and then you anyway you get rid of it all. So.
Did you have any thought at all of re-upping and making it a career, or you were?
No way.
Yeah.
2 years, that's it. I say, they give us a talk and tell them you need to do this. You get all these rewards this year. You get if you're a corporal or sergeant, you get up another grade and you get this pay hike. And no way, I'm heading home. 2 years but I got separated, got out, got all things done, and they kind of gave us a guideline about when you would be getting out. And it was that morning on the 9th, that's when they signed my papers, and they had airline bus people there and everything, and I went over and got my airline ticket to leave from Monterey. Wasn't Monterey, there's a town between Fort Ord and Monterey, and I can't think of the town. That was what the airport was. So I got on the airport plane, and I said, I'm calling, I'm coming home. Should be there. Flew into Tucson and got off the plane, and there's my parents out there, and my future wife she was standing behind the rest of them, looked very shy. And I come off and what do I do? And I don't know if I cried or what, but anyway, I know my mother cried. Glad to see my baby home.
Yeah, sure.
My dad and my brother was there, and then went over to Billie, my future wife, and greeted her. All strange. Got to start all over again.
Yeah, right.
Appreciate your letters and this type of thing. So went home. They asked me questions, so kind of debriefed me. I don't remember. It's fog. I remember she came over to the house, and then I took her back home, and then I went back home to get some rest. And it wasn't until the next day. She had to be at work. She was a stenographer, and I'm thinking, I don't remember too much about that.
Yeah. Well, now, asking the same question I asked you earlier, how was that now after 18 months in the Army, in really a third world country, coming back to civilization? Did you have much of an adjusting back to life in America again, or was it...
Yes, there was an adjustment. That's kind of a fog.
Is it? Yeah.
It just.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to do nothing for a while.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
And I wanted to get a car, and I had a Model A Ford. Before I went in, my brother sold it while I was in the service. But I only paid $25 for it. And I used it my last year as senior, go back and forth to school. But anyway, it's my brother said, you got to go look at a VW. What kind of car are you going to get? And I said, well, I want something to get transported around. He said, you see these VWs, they're a German car. Little Beetles, you need to see those things. Well, he's always car crazy. So anyway, he took me down, looked at the car, and little VW, little bugs, little turn signals, little wings come out on either side, and And how much was it? $17.95, I believe. I said, oh gosh, I can buy that. So anyway, I bought that little VW, and I don't know if it was good or not. You know, I think he said I was the 12th or 13th person to buy one of these in Tucson.
Really? Yeah.
And the reason I tell you that because everywhere where I wanted to buy, oh, that's a VW, that's a German car. Can I look at it? Can I see it? Oh my God, what did I get myself into? But anyway, you know, it's a little 36 horsepower, 68 miles an hour, about top speed with a tailwind downhill. But anyway, we had that for 2 years. And so got that, and then we started dating again, getting, want to know, you know, I tell my story over this and learning these things and sharing, and everywhere I went with people who wanted to even know, you know, what'd you do?
Yeah.
And, well, I drove a truck or blew things up and did you shoot anybody? No. Did you carry weapons? I said, well, it depends on when I had guard duty. Yes, I carried a carbine on guard duty, and we had ammunition. In the States, when we had guard duty, we just had bayonet. I said, no, we had ammunition, and we shot it once in a while. That was just probably shooting in the air. But anyway, we turned our weapons in because we didn't need them anymore, because it was a demilitarized zone, no shooting, so that was only up on the only people I really saw with outside of the camp area was military police. They had 45s, and that was it. So, but anyway, took a while to get settled in and get used to things. Going down the store and seeing all this.
Yeah, right.
Gross stuff, food, I mean, clothing. What am I going to buy? You know, but it took use of that, and then decided I need to get married. I asked her if she marry me. Yes.
Oh.
Besides that, I decided I wanted the GI Bill. They said you could go back to school, so I went back, registered at the University of Arizona, but my mind was not there. It was more with a girl.
Yeah.
And so when I registered my GI Bill, I got that started. They put me in English, a foreign language,
Oh boy.
no.
Psychology,
some of the other things in English. I just didn't make it there. Then the dean called me in, and I go in his office, and he says, "You're a veteran. You're in the foreign language. You're taking German. You are not required to have a foreign language because you've been in the service. You've been in a foreign country, so you're exempt from foreign language."
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, but I flunked out on English. I did make it through psychology. And I don't remember any of the other courses I had. Anyway, at that first semester, that's as far as I went. And
Yeah.
I started to work for my dad for Les Corporation, working in the cabinet shop. And then I started into since they were union, I'd started back into the apprenticeship program. So I went through a 4-year apprenticeship program. They give me 6 months credit for being in the service, being in with the MOS that I had on that. So that made up some things, but with the training on there. So we got married in June 10th, 1956.
56, so what, you're going on, 62 years of marriage now?
We've been married 62 years.
Wow.
And we have been fun. It's been, you always, at the beginning, you always have some difficulties.
Yeah, yeah.
But we've had blessed marriage.
Oh, wow.
And our kids are all, we're, as I said before, we're Christians, we went to church, but the kids are all, we have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. And I was going to say, what are their ages at this time? One is 61 and one's 60, and the other is, the girl is 57, I believe. We have 6 grandchildren.
Wow.
And 2 great-grandchildren. Out of those, we have 3 boys and 3 girls. The great-grandchildren is 1 girl and 1 boy.
Split right down the middle of everything.
Yeah. And our oldest was the last one to get married, so he has the youngest kids.
Okay.
He's a computer. Yeah, and they live in Carson, Gardnerville, Nevada.
Okay.
Works in Carson City. And our middle son living in Weld County, which is here, and they have 2 children. And they have a daughter, which is oldest, and the youngest is a son. And he's here in Severance and works for Mylar Cabinet Company. Oldest granddaughter is married to an Air Force major stationed in Wickenburg Air Force in California. They happen to be right here at this time right now. She's working on her nutritionist degree.
Okay.
So she's doing her internship, and she had to be over here to take a couple classes this
nice.
week.
Yeah.
So then our daughter, youngest one, has a son, and she's always loved dogs or animals. So she's a dog groomer, not much as dog groomer anymore, but she's a dog trainer. She has her own kennel. She raises collies, and she's got 2 grand champions and maybe 3 grand champions anyway. Anyway, they're beautiful dogs. Behave. I tell you, I have a picture I'll show you. Well, no, I don't. They're all put back. We haven't got a pictures put up yet. Anyway, we were at their house, and they come out of the. She's going to let them in. We were all in the walkout basement, and she brought them in. And they all running excited, and she said something, and they all stood all together, and I got a picture of them because they're looking at her, wait for the next command.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so it's, but before then, back to our kids, after we had our children, and they were growing up, and my industrial arts teacher, he was in charge of the vocational school in Tucson, says, I could use you to go to teach, but you'd have to get a few classes. And at that time, our company was having financial difficulties, and I won't go into that.
Yeah.
But I said, oh, that sounds interesting. So he says, well, you either have to go to Tempe or Flagstaff at Northern Arizona University. Northern Arizona University sound better. So I said, okay. Instead of taking classes for 6 years every night, well, I'll go up there and get it all done in 3 years. And so I applied. I was accepted. I think he had something to do with it because everything went. Well, my wife and I sat down and prayed about it. Lord, if you want us to go, this is what we need to have. You know, we got 3 kids. We're going to need a babysitter. Billie's going to need to have a job. I'm going to have some part-time job to go to school. We're going to need a place to live. Well, everything fell into place except for a babysitter right off. The dean of the college hired my wife to be his secretary because his secretary quit. So she was, and they had found a place for us to live, and I had part-time jobs. So there was a fellow, all I had to do was be there.
Wow.
And so we got up there and got accepted, so I went to school. And 3 years I took all the workshops. They lined me up to get everything done in quick. I had problems. The only thing I had English. I had to go in English. I'm going to have problems with English. I flunked out the first 2 semesters. English just couldn't. You'd have to have a 3 or better. I don't know if they went by ABCs or 1, 2, 3. You have to have a C. Yeah, to have a C or better. Anyway, I got my flunked out, got an F the first time, got a D the second time, got a D the third time. All these part-time jobs, under the teachers, would take part-time jobs because the faculty always come down to the industrial area and you got a student who needs some part-time work at this time. And he wanted some because he wanted to go work on his doctorate. So yeah, so he and I teamed up. Since I had more training than he had, he'd get the person in, I'd line out the job, and what we'd do. So we did for one of the deans wanted some work done, and wanted to remodel his garage. So we were doing it one Saturday, and he came and asked, "What are you working on?" "I'm working on You're older than all the rest of them, aren't you? How are you doing at school?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing everything but English. English having a difficult time." So I said, "I've got to get to English before I can get into my other educational courses. And I have a year to do that." So anyway, he said, "I'm glad to hear that." So next morning, go to school, my wife calls, says, "You're to be ordered to the dean's office right away." No, not the dean. You're to be ordered to the vice president's office right away. Vice president of the school, university. So I report over there, and I can't remember his name, but it says, "Dean such and such of the college talking to me." He says, "You're having problems with English. Tell me the story." Okay, I relate to him. Wait around just a few minutes, please. Called the secretary in. "Will you call the dean of the education, the English department?" They were all over there. And I told them a story. And the department head of the English says, "I want you, when you register, you to register with this certain teacher." She was an older teacher. Because the rest of them were just first year English. They just get anybody to teach English. So I had her. And when I registered for her and everything, she had the story and everything, so she had an interview with me, and I told her. She says, "Bring in all reports. You're already in 400 classes, and you're doing reports. Let me see what type of grades you're making." And I says, "A's and B's. Let me see your reports." So I bring them into her. She says, "You're just having a problem, a little bit of syntax, this type of thing." She says, "We can help you correct that." So by the end of the summer, I was out of English into the last year of education. I got into education courses, and I graduated.
Wow.
And I was out. Thank you, Lord. Anyway, where are you going to go? Well, before then, we'd go back to Tucson to see both Billie and our parents live in Tucson. So, and Flagstaff's up in the northern altitude, and there's what they call the Mogollon Rim going across there. So Interstate 17, we're going across it. We got to the rim, and I looked down to the valley. I says, "I have no more desire to go back down in the valley or teach down there. I know Mr. Bezzetta has a job for me down there. I have no desire to go back to Tucson. Where do you want to go? I don't know. I don't know. But the interviews are coming. And so, anyway, the interviews come up. We're doing all this work and everything. You get to know a lot of the staff. Well, the dean of students' wife worked in the placement office. She says, "Where do you want to go? I'll line you up. Just let me know what your hours are. I can get you." You know, she had me lined up all kinds of places going to interviews. And so, one of them, she says, "We got one to go to island of Guam. Would you like to go there?" Oh, that sounds interesting. Have an interview. I had an interview with you. I like to have an interview with your wife, both of them, because you're going to go there. Because our experience is with, if you have a couple, one doesn't like the area and the other does. And so I call it Billie. Billie comes to our north office, sit down, interviews. You know, we're kind of adventuresome anyway. Would you like to go to Guam? Yeah. Okay, what is it? Well, you sign a 2-year contract. We fly you over there, and at the end of the 2 years, we fly you back where we recruited you from. And if you re-enlist, sign up for another 2 years. At the end of that first 2 years, we give you first-class passage, but you can take that travelization and use it to do traveling around the world, things like that.
Huh.
So, okay, we'll see how we done. Well, I enjoyed teaching there in the vocational school. While there, I started working on my master's, got my master's in education administrations, and my wife got her bachelor's there at the University of Guam. The teachers there are from all over the place. They're not interbred in like you have a lot of these universities. I got my master's, I think, was the best education I got because I had people from all over. And because they'd come for 2 years and teach, and then they'd go on. So you had all this information.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Huh.
Anyway, at the end of their 2 years, we traveled across the United States, saw relatives. We spent about 30 days in Europe, traveling Germany,
nice.
England, all over the place there, France. And then we got back to the States, said goodbye to our parents, and went back to Guam, and flying back, and I look back, and there's that little green island down there. Oh, that's home. Isn't that beautiful? Well, we spent 8 years
In Guam? Is that right?
The last 3 years, the superintendent of vocational education come by in my room one day and says, "What are you going to do with your master's?" "Nothing." He says, "Well, I need you vice principal next year at the vocational school." Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But anyway, I ended up being vice principal, but actually I was this acting principal because the principal had a heart attack. So I was acting principal. I was assistant principal, students affairs, and curriculum. I had all three of them together. But only had that for 1 year. So the second year, I was principal of curriculum development. So I started, and curriculum development, I was also had to attend some federal programs, so I had to fly back to the States to the federal meetings and back and forth. So I spent a lot of time flying, and 32 hours flying, travel time for 8-hour meeting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got that all with, and so then Guam started getting quite politically. You're up in administration, so something goes wrong, the governor calls you up and says, "I hear this going on. What are you going to do about it?" So I come home. We'd bought a home there in Guam because they furnished homes. And we've been there 8 years, so I'd stay. So getting political, I said, let's come back to the States. And what are we going to do? Well, getting the different, I had people from Kansas State University, Colorado State University come on doing workshops, keep the staff upgraded. And one of the guys, the CSU's department head says, you should come back and work on your doctorate. because what you're doing here in curriculum development is what you'd be doing there. You might as well get credit for it. Being in Guam, you're considered out of the country, so you'll be as a foreign student. Come on, so you get foreign student housing and this type of thing. It's okay, so we come back here, and they had graduate assistants and this type of thing, all things, so it was all paid for. So, and my wife got a job at the church and a secretary, so she had all this thing. So our kids enjoyed it in Guam. They grew up in Guam, and we got back here, and they had last year's high school. One was in the university. In fact, one so I come a year ahead of time was going to a college back east, and so I finished my doctorate program and looking for a job, and they kept me busy over on campus. I did curriculum development over there for writing for the state of Colorado, and then I worked for one of the professors that met at church doing research on water development in the state and all around, and then part-time I worked for a sign company, and got to learn all kinds of things, and always needed some plastic, so the plastic place was just down a couple of buildings, and went down there, and one day I walked down there, and he says, "I want to sell you the business." I told him about the business. He says, "I'm going to talk to my accountants, we'll have everything drawn up." The following week, I go down there, and he says, "Here's all the paperwork, this is what I want for the business. I'm going to sell it to you, and I'll give you a week to get things put together." Well, went home and told my wife, I said, "We need to do some praying. We need to get a loan." We were turned down and just to help the kids for a loan and this type of thing. I said, "Lord, we need, if you want us to have this business, open up the doors." Well, he did. Her mother gave us $3,000. A friend gave us $3,000. Somebody else gave us some money. The bank said, "How much you want?" I can't. We've had it all paid off in 3 years. So we had the business for almost 14 years.
Sign business?
No, plastic business.
Oh, the plastic business.
Alpha Plastic and Design.
Okay.
Sold it to one of our customers, and we tripled or quadrupled the business.
Wow.
And we bought it for, and he's quadrupled it also, and enjoyed it, had fun with customers. But when I turned 65, got the notice in the mail, says, "You're no longer, our insurance does not cover you anymore, you are under Medicare." Okay. So a year later I decided, well, I'm getting tired, 8 hours a day. So we sold the business.
Wow.
And but in between that, in 1970.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got to tell that story.
We had, while we were in Guam in 1970, I took a tour in 73. We went to Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, and Taiwan on a trip. So being in education, we got in Korea, went to the Korean embassy, they told us where to go. Went to the education department, went up there, walked in, told them what I want. Guy could talk English, and he says, "Oh yes, in vocational education, would you like to see a business or the vocational industrial area?" And I said, "I'd like to see both because I'm an administrator. So we'll have a car take you." So they had a car take Billie and I over to a business school, and it says the principal is not there, he's in meeting, but the business teacher's there. Well, they had blackboards all the way around the room, and he had 3/4 of the blackboards were already filled that he'd been writing in English, explaining the whole program.
Wow.
Just awesome.
Ah.
Then the car took us over to the vocational school. Walked in there, and the principal met us and explained everything, taken up the classrooms and everything, and I stopped and I says, was this facility used by the United Nations? I says, it looks very familiar, because I put plywood over the blackboards in some of these rooms. He says, yes, it was.
Wow. I'll be darned. Wow.
So, got to be in Japan, went to Hiroshima again, toured the area, completely changed what it was in 1953 that I was there, and went to Hong Kong, Taiwan, and been back to Taiwan 3 times now, and been back to Korea another time. Went to visited the Cho's church there, what was the largest church in the world, and visited them and saw that, and visited a Baptist church and a few other places there, and got to tour the area and show the people that went with us all the things we used to do.
Yeah, I'll be darned.
And so it has been an experience that the military, looking back, I wasn't aware of what it had put into me and the opportunities. Yeah.
Well, that's always the last question I ask on this interview. As you look back on your time in the military, how did it change your life, affect your life, play a role in your life, or was it simply just a chapter in your life?
Well, at first I thought it was just a chapter, but as I gotten older and been able, it has molded me in a number of ways. Respect, when I see the American flag now, I go down it. What it means to me.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I would go down to Seoul. A friend of mine would go to Seoul, go down there. Okay, what if we'd get attacked or somebody? We'd look for the American flags. We knew that'd be a military base, something. It'd be medical or something. Mm-hmm. We knew we were safe there. When we toured Europe, we'd see an American flag. That might be the embassy or might even be a military base or something. We saw the American flag, we knew we were safe because we respect the American flag. American flag is represented. And see these young people tear up and burn the American flag. They do not know why or the freedom that they have and how to respect one another. I mean, they don't know what yes ma'am, yes sir means. And the people call, oh, hi, Don. Oh, it's Mr. Johnson. It's Mr. I mean, there needs to be some respect. They have no respect now for a business or anybody else driving down the road anywhere. They've lost it, either by the parents that way. It seemed like it was in the 60s that this was lost. And but anyway, I felt with this honor flight, it brought dignity back to me, that there are people still around that appreciate the American flag and what it stands for.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Don, I think we'll wind down this interview. What a wonderful story you've had to date, and I appreciate you sitting down to tell it. But as well, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Well, thank you.